thought we would do something just a little different during devotion time. Over the next few weeks, several weeks, 1 week, 50 weeks, something wrong somewhere in between there. But I thought we would just sort of, as a devotion, get to know some great Christians in the past. I got several books. By no means is it everything about the person, but it is just a little something about people from the past that maybe we can get something from. And I think it's good to look at those people and see what they done, what they didn't do. So that being said, we'll start off this morning with, and I guess I would title this series "Who Is," and we'll just be going through some different people, just letting you know, like I said, letting you know who are some of these people. But the first one that we're going to look at this morning is, who is Catherine von Bora? Does anybody know who that is? Raise your hand. Anybody at all? Catherine von Bora. Okay. At first I thought she went to school with Miss Margie. She was born January 29th, 1499, but she was born in Lippendorf, Germany. So this was a long time ago. This was before our King James Bible had taken shape. And Catherine, like I said, born in 1499. When she was 5 years old, her mom died. And what happened a lot of times in that case, her dad put her into a boarding school. And, a lot of times these boarding schools, dads are this much better at it now, not much. But a lot of times the reason they did that was so the young girl could learn how to do things that a woman should know how to do. And so she was put in a boarding school when she was 5. When she was 9, her father took her out and put her in a convent in Saxony, Germany. And then she was there for a few years. And on October the 8th, the year 1515, at 16 years old, she was, quote, married to Christ and officially became a nun. So that's a little bit about her as a child. A couple years would pass after she became a nun, and on October the 31st, 1517, a man by the name of Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the Christ Church in Wittenberg, Germany. And even though we as Baptists, we will say that we were never part of the Catholic Church, so we didn't protest anything, so we are not Protestant. It's still what Martin Luther done. That started one of the biggest religious movements in the history of man. And we would, what they believe now, those denominations that come out of that, what they believe now is totally different than what they believed back then. Used to, you could get together for the most part, and a lot of us believe the same things. But that happened, and as the Reformation began to spread, numbers of nuns and monks and a whole lot of other people became believers. And a lot of these nuns that were in these Catholic convents, once they became believers, they began to try to escape the convent. And a lot of times when they would try to escape, they would get caught and they would be brought back and they would be tortured. They would be put under even more bondage than they was before. There was this convent at the Nimshin convent. 12 nuns there had become believers, and they had somehow got word to Martin Luther that they wanted to get out, that they wanted to escape. So on Easter evening, April 5th, 1523, a brave merchant named Henry Koppe, that's K-O-P-P-E, and his nephew Leonard drove wagon loads of barrels into the convent like they normally would because they were merchants of that convent. But this time the barrels were empty, and they took those 12 nuns and put each one in a barrel, and that's how they smuggled them out. They were taken. 3 of those 12 were taken back to their hometown, to their home, to live with their family. 9 of them were taken to Wittenberg, Germany, where their husbands, or where husbands would be found for them. I don't know if they still do that in Wittenberg, ladies. After 2 years, each one of them were married, except for Catherine von Bora. She did fall in love with a man, but this man ended up marrying somebody else. Luther, in fact, encouraged her to marry a pastor by the name of Caspar Glaetz, but she refused to marry him. So some time passed, and Martin Luther wrote to a friend, and in the letter he said this: "If I can swing it, I'll take my Kate to wife ere I die, to spot the devil." And the reason was maybe not first of all out of love, but because he was obviously very anti-Catholic, and their law, if you will, about clergy and priests marrying, he said, "No, I'll marry just for spot, just to spot, them." Luther was not against marriage. He had refrained from being married up to this point because he knew that he was a marked man, and he knew that would also put his family and eventually children in danger, and he just didn't know if he wanted to do that, and so he had put it off. He also thought of some economic factors of marriage. It said that he would, in the books that he wrote, it is said that he didn't get any royalties from the books. He wasn't paid for the books. And he was also known for his generosity to anybody that would want or need something. He would just give. And so he was fine living a meager life, depriving himself of some things the world had. But he wasn't for sure that was fair to deprive his wife of the same thing. So he put off being married for a long time until June 13th, 1525, Dr. Martin Luther and Catherine von Bora were married in a private ceremony. And as per custom back then, 2 weeks later, they were married publicly at a church. Their marriage instantly, just like he knew it would, their marriage instantly gained many enemies. Many slanderous stories were told. In fact, one man said that their first child would be the Antichrist. It ain't just nowadays that anytime we see somebody, we're calling them the Antichrist. No, they were doing it a long time ago. She always referred to him as Dr. Luther. He had several pet names for her. His favorite being Kitty My Rib, because obviously the woman taken from the rib. He also called her Seilbander, which is German for better half. He referred to her as My Lord Kate and Dr. Catherine, for she was an excellent nurse, and she was a dispenser of herbal medicine. And this was funny, when he thought she gave too many orders, he called her Kette, K-E-T-T-E. It is German for chain. So it was a struggle for Luther to be married. Most of all of his life, he was accustomed to planning his own day, and it took him a little bit to figure out, no, now there's another person, there's another mind, there's another heart there that goes into the planning. He actually called marriage a school for character. But we're not necessarily talking about Martin Luther, we're talking about Catherine von Bora. She was a true Proverbs 31 woman. She turned their house into a home. She kept cows for milk and to make butter and cheese, and would sell what they didn't use. She also kept pigs because Luther liked pork. She stocked a fish pond, and she even turned a neglected field into a productive garden that what she didn't use for the family, she would go to the local merchants and sell as well. She had said it was not easy being married to Martin Luther, as he would sit at the dinner table and the food would sit there and the food would get cold while he was discussing or debating theology with some of his students or guests that would just come by. And people were always coming by to see him. There was always coming by to discuss things. But one of his most famous books is entitled The Table Talk of Martin Luther. And it was some conversations that he had at the dinner table with other students and guests that would come by. And all this happened, a lot of this conversation happened while the meal that she prepared would just sit there and get cold. During a very trying time for Luther, he was usually very jolly and always usually have a smile. He became really depressed and worrisome. And so he came home one day, and she was dressed in a black mourning dress. And he asked her, he said, "Who died?" She said, "God did." And he was like, "That's foolish talk, woman. What are you talking about?" And she said, "God must have died, or Dr. Luther would not be so sorrowful." And so she had a unique way of dealing with him. The way he addressed her in letters that he had wrote to her told of their loving but also jovial relationship. He would address her in different ways. A couple that I kind of wrote down was, "To the deeply learned Miss Catherine Luther, my gracious housewife in Wittenberg." He also addressed her to the holy, worrisome lady, Catherine Luther, doctor at Wittenberg, my gracious dear housewife. He also would address her like this: housewife Catherine Luther, doctress, and whatever else she may be. They had 6 children. Hans was born in 1526. Elizabeth was born in 1527. She would die 1 year later. Magdalene was born in 1529. She would die at 13. Martin was born in 1531. Paul in 1533. And Margaret in 1534. It said that Luther would get up every morning, and he would get up every morning at 6 o'clock, and he'd pray for his kids, and his kids then would recite by memory the Lord's Prayer, the Creed, and the 10 Commandments, and then they would sing a song. And Martin Luther was himself a very skilled musician. And then he'd go off and spend most of his day preaching and teaching, leaving Catherine there to kind of take care of the home. But she didn't just take care of Luther in the home. She would, at various times, there were nieces and nephews of hers and Luther's that would come and live with them. Luther's students would come live with them. There was always people coming and staying at their house. Just unannounced. People would just stop by just to talk to Martin Luther. But somehow she found time to minister through all that, through all the work, through all the taking care of 6 kids, making sure her husband was taken care of, raising the pigs, raising the cows, working the garden, doing all that. She also found time to minister to people there in Wittenberg. And she would use her education and her experience as a nurse to treat them medically a lot of times. She would counsel them. She would listen to their problems. And she even advised them in business affairs. Of course, if you're going to live for the Lord, there's going to be hard times that come. And there were some sickness that come their way. And Martin Luther was not a robust man. He was very sickly and frail a lot of times. And a lot of times he would have things that just come up all of a sudden. And many times in their relatively short marriage, she said she was preparing to be a widow as he lay there dying. But she prayed and God would heal him. In 1540, Catherine got sick. And Martin Luther thought, well, now she's going to die. And he sat by her side day and night, just praying to God, and God healed her. 6 years later, Luther would get sick again. He found himself being nursed by Catherine. This time, he would not get better and would die February the 18th, 1546. After he died, war broke out in Germany. Things were going bad. She had to flee Wittenberg with her kids. When she came back, the house was ruined. The garden was ruined. All of her cows were gone. But she came back. She began to rebuild, and then the plague hit, so she had to leave again. It was during this time, the trip that they were taken in a wagon, that she was threw from the wagon into a ditch of icy water, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end for her. And she died at 52 or 53, December 20th, 1552. And so, but she was a great woman. She was a great wife. She was everything I've read about her. Definitely, like I said, was a Proverbs 31 woman. And Warren Wiersbe, after he had wrote about her, said this: I suggest that we make either January 29th or June 13th Pastors' Wives' Day, not only in honor of Catherine of Ambora, but in honor of all pastors' wives everywhere, that great host of sacrificing women of God who make it possible for their husbands to minister. I salute these women who must often turn houses into homes, who carry the burdens of their people as well as their own, who do without that others may have, who cheerfully bear criticism, and who do it all to the glory of God. Then he asked this question: what have you done lately to encourage your pastor's wife? And so, a lot of times what we'll do is we look at all these men, throughout history, these great men that have done a lot for the Lord. And behind every great man, there's a woman at home, taking care of things, ministering to him, so he don't have to. And if you're ever going to do, I'm not just talking about preachers, but anything in the ministry. If any man is going to do anything in the ministry, he's going. You could have a godly wife like he had, or you could have a wife like John Wesley had, or Charles Wesley, one of them. And she would follow him around and cuss and rant and tell everybody he was lying, hypocrite, and all these kind of different things. And so a wife can help the ministry or they can hinder the ministry. And Martin Luther will get credited when we get to glory again. Some of his doctrine wasn't all right, but I believe there's a lot of people in eternity in heaven one day because of Martin Luther's stand. And I believe that Catherine von Bora gets some of that credit as well. And so that's just her. We'll look at another character maybe next week. Father, I sure thank you, Lord, for the day you've given us. I thank you, Lord, for this place and the people that are here. I thank you, Lord, for these people in the past, Lord, that we can just look to and maybe glean from and, Lord, maybe learn some things from their life. We ask, Father, that you'll bless the Sunday school and the preaching. I ask that you would get the glory of anything that's done in Jesus'